Hey everybody, Dave here from Dave Tries to Fix Stuff, channel dedicated to the repair, restoration, and resurrection of broken stuff. Today's episode, we're going to do something with this little harmony guitar I've got. I bought this thing at a pawn shop, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, I forget how long. Got it for next to nothing, it was like 30-35 bucks. And it cleaned up really nicely. It was in pretty bad shape when I got it, extremely neglected. It had gook everywhere. The entire thing was covered almost head to toe with gook on it. But I got it cleaned up. It is a Harmony H-802, as you can see right there. Also has a, is that a D'Addario? Yep, D'Addario sticker on it. It is just a little, like the kind you used to get in JCPenney. It's got a laminate body, a plywood body. It's got a couple of single coil pickups in it with switches. There's no pickup selector switch, just on-off switches for these. It's got tone, volume controls. Got a not even, it doesn't have a compensated bridge. Just a, you know, it's got, you can do the height, string height on it, but there's no compensation for it. So you got to put the strings in there and pray that you get it right. But for the most part, it's a fun little guitar. What we're going to do on it today, though, if you will look closely at the neck, at the fretboard, you can see that the finish on the fretboard has faded greatly from what it used to be. That, you know, if you look at the side there, that's the color that it is actually supposed to be, and you can see that it is not even close to that. I'm imagining the reason that had happened was when I got this thing and I cleaned it up, I actually utilized that thing's almost coming off there. I'm going to have to fix that too. I utilized some steel wool, you know, some degreaser and all that to get all that, because this thing had just built up grime on it, you know, between the frets. I mean, there was right up next to the frets, it was just black. It was so nasty. But I got it all cleaned up, fixed up and all that. Got some mineral oil on it, and it looked fine for a while, and I've oiled it since, but the mineral oil no longer darkens the wood. So it always looks like this thing is just dried out and nasty. So what I've decided to do is I've got a couple of different shades of stain here, oil-based stain, and I am going to try to come up with a combination of these colors to closely as possible match the color that's on the side here, and I'm going to restain this neck and try to make it look pretty again. So if you want to come along with me for that joyride and see how it turns out, by all means stick around. Okay, one thing I noticed on here is that somehow, for some reason, this E string is almost ready to come loose here. So I mean, it doesn't really matter as far as from what I'm doing. I got to loosen these strings up anyway, but I got to make sure I get that thing back in there. But what we are going to do is I'm going to loosen these strings up real good. I'm trying to decide if I want to try to salvage the strings. I should be able to, because the thing is, in all honesty, these strings are brand new. I mean, they've been on them since I restored the thing a few years back, but I don't think this thing has been played but maybe 2 times. So the strings are still new, and I don't know if it's like the oil in your car where they say, you know 3 months or 3,000 miles kind of a thing, you know, if it's time and or mileage. But I would think that if these things haven't been played and there's no yeah, that thing's got to get fixed, and there's no oils or, you know, gook or anything that's gotten on them because they've been getting used a lot, then I don't see a reason to have to get rid of them if I can get them to get to I'm gonna have to figure out how to get that out of there. If I can get them to actually just kind of stay off to the side, get the thing stained, and then just reset them, reuse them. So we'll see what happens, though. I mean, if it turns out that these things are going to be too big of a pain to mess with to be able to just set them off to the side, then I may have to restring with some new strings. But if that's the case, worse things have happened. But I need to get my screwdriver. I'll be right back. need my flathead too to be able to open this stuff up. You know, I'm wondering, because I got both of these stains thinking what I could do is utilize this lighter color as a base and add just a drop or two of the ebony to kind of darken it up, but I gotta think that what may end up happening, well, I don't know, because I was thinking I might use tung oil on this too, but if I use tung oil on it, it'll seal it up. And I'm not necessarily looking to seal it up, because I want to be able to continue to put mineral oil on this to keep it nice and conditioned. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my little thingy bobber here. I'm going to just dab it in there ever so gently. We're going to rub on a little bit of stain onto this thing. And that stuff's getting absorbed really quickly. That's telling me that this is actually very dried out. So even though I was trying to keep this thing in good shape as far as keeping it oiled, it still has dried out. You know, but this is the Vegas climate that we're talking about, so wood like this gets dried out very quickly. So that's on me. But I think what I'll do is I'll put a coat of this stuff up and down the board, and then I will come back in a little bit for another coat, or another application I should say, not a coat, because you don't really coat stain, you apply it I guess, but I'll do another application and see if it how much it darkens it up. Already it's kind of, you can see the difference there, so it's working. But I'll see if I can get it darkened up with future applications, and if it's just not getting to the point that I want, then I'll try mixing in, a drop of that ebony to, like an ounce of this stuff and like a drop of that ebony, and see if that, darkens it without turning it too black. Because this is, even though it's a bit darker, I think there needs to remain a lot more red than to go, to like an ebony black look to it, because that's just not the color that it's supposed to be. So. I don't know, do other people do this? I understand that, guitars normally will use whatever, you get rosewood and you get that nice rosewood finish. I think this might be rosewood or it might be mahogany, I'm not sure. Looks like a rosewood, but I know rosewood tends to be quite a bit darker. And I have seen guitars that are real low-end guitars that have whatever they use for the fretboard, but they've come back and actually used like an ebony stain on it to make it appear like an ebony fretboard, when it's not even close. It's a cheap material that they've used, a cheap wood material for it, and that tends to, it looks okay, but it tends to wear weirdly and unevenly. I've seen it happen. So, but I don't know if, I really doubt that there are any kind of high-end guitar manufacturers out there, or even middle, kind of midway, not just cheap ones, but midway guitar manufacturers that actually use stain to tint the fretboards, or if I'm kind of alone in this endeavor. I'll tell you what, just with one pass, it already looks 100 times better. It's just I'm going to need more passes here before I'll be able to to be fully happy with it. Because I want to make it, you know, like I said, I want it to match as much as I can to the side, which definitely has a darker hue to it. So that's going to be my ultimate goal. But you know, this stuff, I think you put it on like I did, you let it soak in for, you know, a few minutes, and then you come back and you rub off the excess. Funny thing is there is no excess on this. This wood just soaked it right in. So I'll probably put another application on here right now, and then I'm going to let it sit. But you know what? I'll leave the camera going so you can watch the next application. But we'll do it in fast motion, so you don't have to sit through the boredom. Well, you know, this one that I did, I kind of slathered it on there pretty thick, actually, and I can see it raising the grain, but there is some excess on this particular one, so I'm thinking that it's definitely going to need to be wiped off. The excess is going to have to be wiped off. So I'm going to let this sit on here for a little bit. I will then proceed to wipe off the excess, and we will see where we are at that point. And pardon my tapping. But after we get the excess off of here, we'll see where we are in a few minutes, and then we will return with what we do next. Okay. Okay. So I've let it soak for about 10 minutes or so, and I have. I'll also need to get my file out here and file this thing too in some places. I've let it soak for about 10 minutes or so, and it looks good. I mean, the color's really coming back to it, but I've already wiped off the excess, but I want to put another application on here. But this is making me think that it's not going to be necessary to mix any darker colors. I think if I just keep applying this and allowing it to soak in, it's going to get plenty dark enough just by the nature of the stain. So, and even if it's not quite as dark as what's on the sides, I think it'll still look really. I think once the stain dries and cures and all that, and I get some more mineral oil out of this thing to soak in as well, I think that's going to darken it even further, so it'll end up being a good match at that point. So. It's got a nice. Again, it's not quite as dark as the sides, but it's still got a nice deep color tone to it, which is a lot nicer than it looked like before. Before it was just, it looked like a piece of dead wood that had been, you know, drying out in the sun. So I'm pretty happy with this. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this sit again for. I'm going to let this sit for another 10-15 minutes or so. Then I'll wipe off the excess, and then I'll let it dry overnight. What does it say to let it dry for? 4 to 6 hours. Oh, it says to darken the color, apply a second coat after 4 to 6 hours. So I guess I was a little overzealous and put this on too soon, but you know, as dry as this wood is, and as much as it's really soaking it in, I don't think that it's going to be a big problem. It's not like this stuff is just, you know, so. Okay, so I got this thing finished up with the everything restrung, with the thing all completed. Looks like there's like a, what do you call it? ash from a cigarette burn right there. Oh well, adds to the charm. It's not as dark as the side there, but I think it still turned out really good. I'm very happy with it. I will go ahead and put up a picture from what it looked like originally right now, so you can kind of see the difference between the color that it was and the color that it is now. And it's pretty sweet. I like it a lot. It turned out great. Cool. I love it. Easy project too. A little dusty. Dust my guitars. I have them hanging up on a wall, so. But one thing I need to do. You know what? Maybe you know what? I'm going to add that to this video. This video just got longer. I've got a repair I need to make right there because this thing's got a slot broken out of it. I am going to fill those. Probably have the same problem down here. I'm going to fill that a little bit, and I'm going to re-drill these and put some buttons on them so that I can actually have a strap on this thing. So I'm going to do that, and then once that's done, we will come back and actually, no, I'll film that. There you go. That's a good idea. Let me get the stuff I need to get that done. And okay, so what I'm going to use for this is I've got some DAP plastic wood. I actually bought this for another project that I'm going to be working on. But it should work pretty well for filling this stuff up. I was just thinking it would probably fill in a little bit harder than just regular plain wood filler. The stuff has wood fibers in it, but it ends up curing harder than wood filler does. At least I think it does. I don't know, I could be wrong. But it's just going to be a matter of getting just a little bit. I'm probably just going to use my finger, and I can kind of work it into the hole and all that stuff. Definitely stinks. So let's see here. Try to zoom in a little bit here on what I'm doing. So you can see that right there. Oops. You know what? I know what I'm going to get real quick. If I use some toothpicks, I should be able to kind of shove this stuff down into the hole a little better, and it will fill in more. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it on camera, but so what I'm doing is I'm pushing this stuff in as much as I can with my finger, and then I'm using the toothpick to kind of shove it down into the hole a little bit better so it fills in more. So it's not just filling in on the top, it'll fill in the thing completely. Appears to be pretty close right there. It's getting tougher to push it down in there now. So I think that means that it's getting filled up. So that's good. Stuff dries out pretty quickly. But you can see now that that thing's filled in pretty good. And I can come back, I think I'll just clean it off real good with a rag. And then I can get I'm just going to use a Sharpie to color it in. Okay, so that filled in pretty good. So, got that one is now filled in, and that one is now filled in. I'll give it a little bit of time to cure, and then I can come back with a Sharpie and color over it and want to be able to see that, and then I can re-drill it and put some new strap buttons on there. And I'll actually be able to put a strap on this thing, which would be nice. So, all right, we'll take care of that. I'll be right back. Okay, so now we've got this. It's had a chance to dry. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to that's basically it right there. Hope I didn't get into the shot. But there's that. And this one, which is going to be a little more prevalent, it looks like. Right, not too bad. So no, it's filled in and they can't even tell that it's been there, so cool. So I like these easy ones, these are fun. It's a beautiful guitar. Let's put this up here. There we go. Beautiful guitar, ready to go. So, all fixed up, all filled in. Beautiful, beautiful. Now I can hang it back on my wall and not use it for the next 6 months. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Click subscribe if you like what you saw. Leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching.